The great nation of Bapedi, whose totem is the Tubatse, meaning porcupine, originated from a clan known as Bakgatla. After their founder King Mokgatla broke away from the original group, Bakgatla history is largely unknown. What is known, however, is that a king by the name of Tabane later migrated with his people and settled in the area that is now known as Schilpadfontein, close to Pretoria. No information is given for how long they were there, but Tabane seems to have been replaced by Motsha, whose son and successor Diale had a number of wives, the youngest of whom was his favorite, Mathobele. When she was expecting her first child, the other wives teased and made fun of her out of jealousy because of her favored status, alleging that her unborn child cried in her womb. Mathobele eventually gave birth to a healthy boy and gave him the name Lellelateng, which loosely translates to "it cries inside." But this strange incident was attributed to witchcraft, and the Bakgatla council wanted the mother and the child both executed. Fortunately, they were spared thanks to Diale's intervention, but as the baby got older, it became clear that the tribe would not accept him, and it appears that he and his family, along with a sizable following, either rebelled against the tribe or were driven from it and traveled to the east with their flocks and herds to found the Bapedi nation. They passed through the area to the north of Middelburg, crossing the Olifants River just before it joins the Ellens River. Around 1650, they made their way across the Lulu Mountains and eventually settled at Fateng, an area not far from Steelport. From there, they took control of the commercial routes connecting the country's interior with its coast, beginning their rule over other Sotho speakers in the region. The Bakgatla who left with the Diale would later constitute the core of the Bapedi nation. King Thulare, who reigned from 1780 to 1820, built the foundation for Bapedi's rise to power. Thulare was an astute statesman and a courageous warrior. Bapedi's national motto, "Feta kgomo sware motho, mo feta kgomo ke moriri wa hloga," served as the foundation for his empire's growth into a powerful and renowned power. They put it into practice by integrating small tribes, sparing the lives of the defeated and helpless, using cattle to wed as many women as possible from the other tribes, accepting outsiders and refugees into the tribe, and subduing rebellious tribes. The emperor prevented rebellions from subordinate kings by offering them his daughters to marry. A princess was referred to as Sitimamelo, the snuffer of fires. This gift confirmed the subordinate's kingdom, and through the union, the emperor remained influential in local succession. As a consequence, the Marota, as Bapedi are affectionately addressed, were the de facto rulers of a great empire that included people of other origins, including the Bakgatla, Batau, Bakone, Baroka, Batlokwa, Baphuthi, Bakwena, Bakgatla, Bantwane, Bamongatane, Bamohlala, Mapulana, Mathobele, Matlala, Batswana, Maswati, Batswako, and many others. They all owed allegiance and had a common loyalty to the Bapedi kings. They even requested initiation sessions from the Bapedi kings. So it is clear that, historically, the Bapedi were a relatively small tribe who by various means built up a considerable empire. Through a clever blend of diplomacy and military conquest, the Bapedi Empire prospered and the Maroteng dominion reached its pinnacle under the mighty Thulare. Over time, the empire expanded to a point where, at its height, it controlled the territory between the Lekwe or Vaal River and the Lebebe or Limpopo River in the south and the north, and the Komati River and the Kgalagadi in the east and the west respectively. To maintain effective command over the vast territory, Bapedi warriors were dispatched to secure the borders. They fought against all intruders, including Arab slave traders, Boers, British, Swatis, and many others. Thulare's influence was such that he even became the spiritual leader of surrounding tribes that were not under direct Bedi control. In 1824, during a solar eclipse, King Thulare passed away and was succeeded by the eldest of his 8 sons, Molekutu, who attempted to continue expanding the Bedi sphere of influence. Molekutu's reign as Bapedi king did not survive for very long, since one of his brothers poisoned him. When Nguni raiders arrived from the south, Bapedi were in a state of chaos. Whether the assailants were Abatwagazi under the leadership of Mzilikazi, or a section of Amandwandwe led by Zwangedaba, who had split from Zwide following his defeat by Shaka, is a matter of debate among historians. In either case, Bapedi were overwhelmed and all of Thulare's sons, with the exception of Sekwati, were killed. The Nguni raiders stayed for about a year, during which they harvested all the crops they could and denuded the land of cattle. Many surrounding groups became destitute and are believed, according to present-day oral sources, to have resorted to cannibalism. Sekwati fled, with what remnants he managed to gather of the Bedi nation, across the Olifants River. For 4 years, they sought refuge in the neighboring and related kingdom of Mapulana. They made periodic raids against small settlements, during which they captured women and cattle. Eventually, Sekwati returned and established his headquarters at Piring, which is today known as Magali's location. Slowly, he brought together the scattered elements of the Bedi group, rid their land of cannibals, and re-established Maroteng dominance in the area. He managed to resist attacks from both the Swati and the Zulu by withdrawing to the surrounding mountain fastness, eventually establishing his capital at Diale, under the eastern slope of the Liolo Mountains. Even though Sekhukune's birth in 1814 to King Sekwati and his wife, Toromejani Pala, may have gone mostly unrecognized, he was to bring the Bedi nation joy, pride, and bravery. When he was born, the young boy was named Mathobele. He acquired the name Sekhukune later on in life as a nickname, and like all such names, over time it replaced his real name. The young Mathobele acquired the name Sekhukune as a consequence of his outstanding role in fights against the Boers. When his father, King Sekwati, died in 1861, Sekhukune, with the help of his Matuba regiment, militarily repulsed an attempt on the throne of his father by his brother Mampuru. In true Serota fashion, he then allowed Mampuru to leave the Bapedi peacefully. Bapedi did not undergo extensive conversion to Christianity, as did the Tswana. This was a result of conflict between the Berlin Missionary Society and the Bapedi Kingdom. The Berlin missionaries believed that African kingdoms were obstacles to Christianization. As a result, they systematically undermined royal authority among the Bapedi. King Sekhukune was also against conversion to Christianity, and from 1864, he began to persecute Christian converts. As a result, Christian converts fled from the kingdom and established a settlement called Botshabelo, a place of refuge. Sekhukhune initially had friendly relations with the Boers, but intensifying struggles over land and labor saw these steadily deteriorate until finally, on the 16th of May 1876, the Boers declared war after inventing a rumor about an impending Bapedi attack on the Boer village of Liedenburg. The Boer aggressors suffered a resounding defeat. This was known as the First Sekhukhune War, or the Bapedi-Boer War. In early 1878, another war was declared, this time by the British under Theophilus Shepstone, who saw Sekhukhune as a hindrance to British imperialist ambitions in South Africa. The war was divided into 3 phases. The first phase was initiated by an attack on Sekhukhune's sister, Lellelateng, who, after leaving, rejoined her brother, fearing he would attack her. But the British underestimated the Bapedi's resistance, which ended in a stalemate. The second phase took place in August 1879, when the British attacked Sekhukhune with a force of infantry and mounted men, all regular army. The Bapedi ambushed them and, using the rugged mountainous terrain to their advantage, frustrated the British advance so much that they were forced to retreat to Fort Burgers. The third and final phase took place after the Anglo-Zulu War in November 1879, when a combined army of 3,500 British regular troops, 3,000 Boers, and 8,000 Swati warriors were sent to remove Sekhukhune from his royal palace. While the British and the Boers made a frontal attack, the Swati made a rear attack by swarming over the Bapedi's entrenched positions on the mountain. In a battle lasting over 5 hours, Bapedi warriors fought bravely, but were eventually defeated, and their king was captured and sentenced to long-term imprisonment. But when the British withdrew from the Transvaal after the First Anglo-Boer War, he was released. Eventually, King Sekhukhune was assassinated on the night of 13 August 1882 by his brother Mampuru, who claimed that he was the legitimate king of the Marute. After assassinating Sekhukhune, Mampuru escaped and sought refuge with Nyabela, king of the Ndebele. Following the passing of the great King Sekhukhune, the Pretoria government divided his land into small tribal units that owed allegiance not to one central Marota authority, but to so-called native commissioners. This effectively destroyed one of the greatest empires of the century. Sereto sa Bakgatla. Re tswa mahihing a mahola monyepolla hlabirwa malema selela le mapudi a hoba re batho ba go tshela noka e kgolo ya Tubatse re rwele marumo re supa metsi ka lerumo metsi a ema shaba la Thulare la tshela kwa ga gesho bopedi ga Sekhukhune motho wa boshigo ga a bolawe o tla go mbolaya ga ntho bolaya motlabo wa mmago a tseya selepe a go gabetlelela wa hwa metse ga re tšholole boshigo o tlo re wa tšholola ganthe o tšhela mogonyana a eme ka mafuru a ngala a sepela le dikgomo ka moka ya e batogo re tswa kwa leribeng la noka e kgolo noka ya mphogodiba gona kwa bopedi ga Sekhukhune re theogile kwa thabeng ya mohlopi wa mohlaka wa masebutla dimosiolo mathebe thaba ya matlapa mashou jalo ka mae ya nonyane kgolo re ditlogolo khukhu tsa Bakgatla ba hurutse le barolong ba binagabo bo magolo khukhu le ragolo khukhu ba rena ba tswa kwa ga mangwato ba rwele tsatsi hlogong ba lebile kwa thabeng e kgolo ya modimolle wa mangwato sebakeng re bo magata gato ga matsama khutsa re lebile kwa tsa temashopeng a boragolo le hona re ba kone re ba bina Noko re tswa kwa ga Sekhukhune mmele ga se kwa ditatage Mampuru Sekhukhune le dikwenyana le gadi Re batho ba kgoši kgolo Makgata ka lekwa makgoma ka lekwebepe kgoši sekhukhune mahlong re ba kgala ka maotong re bo thobela wa hlabirwa wa bauba hlabirwa wa ngwato wa ngwato re phatsana ya moselesele seepolla bafukuri marapa ba baileng re batho ba kga sekgwete se melantsweng se shita bale ba madika go tomula re ditlogolo tsa mathula le ngwana molamodi